be part of a strategic planning committee. By the way, there are two benefits of going through strategic planning like this. One is you come up with better answers because it's a group process, you think it through. And the other is the group stays together. So you come up with better answers, and then when the going gets tough and someone says, well, why did you do the online petition? That didn't work so well. You say, remember we all decided on that together? Is there something else we need to do? What would we do? So for group cohesion and for coming up with a better result, the strategic planning process, where the obvious is made explicit, works well. I actually thought this was so excellent. Some ways, not much more to add, and in some ways, any strategy can be as creative as the group involved. So, comments, Mr. Parker?
Would you be willing to add the county schools to the list of pressure points on Congressman Bolton's graduate here?
That sounds great.
So one thing is that if he's a graduate, is there some way that there's a Kennedy School interest? And so that might be under constituents. A great idea. Let's start. Actually, you can throw out in any category, but I actually think let's start with the goals, okay? And I'm thrilled, great, with their overall comments or with these comments on particular categories? Okay, let's just go systematically so people can see how we develop it. First of all, on the goals, again, terrific planning that they had. Anything else on the goals that you might think of? Any other goals? Yes, and was it Emily? What was your name? Anne. Goals on moving Moulton, yes. So on moving Moulton.
In that case, talking to Capuano.
So talking to another member that has a relationship to him and moving that member to talk to him. So that could both be a goal and a tactic, and it also could be a secondary target. So they may appear different places. That's a terrific idea. You obviously have done this before. Other thoughts on goals? We want to get to a winning goal. Okay, well, one thought I had, was there a comment there? Ask Jim McGovern. Ask other members. You have relationships with these members. One thing is to always consider what's your escalation position, your escalation goal. If he says, yes, I will, what else do you ask him to do? Would he talk to another member? Who is he close to that we don't have? Could he have set up a meeting with another member? Not even in Massachusetts. And then what's your fallback position? If you don't win one of those, well, what could you do? And then maybe you're going to some of these other members in order to get to him. You might also consider, are there other things would he hold a public forum on it? Whether he said yes or no, because the forum then would allow us to build more pressure, and it's an involvement demand. Might he even have an annual report, a quarterly report that tells us the status of immigrants in the community? I'm not saying any one of these are the right idea or wrong ideas. They're options to figure out how you keep connection to win concrete improvements in people's lives, give people a sense of their own power, and change the relations of power. Excellent on goals. Anything else there? Okay, then let's actually go to targets. Let's do targets next, which I actually find is convenient to do. Any other thoughts on Moulton? If you wanted to get the book on him, what's the background? What other things would you want to know about him? Or are there aspects about him that you think you might want to hone in on? I think the veteran idea, again, they're doing the process, they're thinking of veterans. I was hit by the point that he wants to run for president. He has national aspirations, so this is no longer just a Massachusetts issue. Any way that you can get secondary people in there or constituencies in there that show a national audience, he may seek it, he may respond to it, and he doesn't want to undermine what sound like potentially a presidential interest. One thing is with people in New Hampshire. Perhaps there's a New Hampshire delegation that comes to visit him. Perhaps there are national organizations on other issues that have taken positions on immigration. there are environmental groups that have taken a Clean Dream Act position. There are faith organizations, national, and they may want to come in too. So finding out what Moulton's self-interests are and then matching them with our constituencies. Yes?
To your point, who are his fundraisers, who are his donors?
The donors, absolutely. Absolutely. Donors, voters, publicity. He also would not want negative publicity. If he didn't agree to meet and you showed up at his office with 100 people saying, we want this meeting on a Clean Dream Act, not the kind of publicity he would want, unless he may very well be responsive, in which case we raise him up as a champion. Then we go to constituencies. And in part, you see how the answers to this column feed the answers to this column. So people from New Hampshire, Kennedy School, veterans, the various organizations in his district. Who else is he close to in Congress? What are his donors? Who are their names? There was one time we were trying to get a statement against a foreign war. There were not that many people focused on the issue. And we got the person who was a senator's chair of his finance committee to write a letter to other donors saying, Senator so-and-so, who's not in office anymore, we would like you to take a position against the importation of arms in Central America. The senator had not responded at all before, but getting this letter from his donors with the grassroots pressure at his door, and he signed. So on constituents, any other constituents that come to mind?
What about the Chamber of Commerce people would employ?
Well, then the question is, when the chamber, actually, where's the chamber now on a Clean Dream Act? Do we know? But if not, we don't know right now. But for example, on the tax fight, the New Jersey chamber had come out against the tax bill because there's a way in which it will increase taxes on middle-income families in some of their states in New Jersey. So looking, are there ways to have divisions even within what might otherwise be seen as opposition? Great idea. Yes?
There are a lot of undocumented soldiers and undocumented veterans.
Excellent
So
idea.
it's a very narrow group of people, but if we could get someone that would advocate.
And elevating those stories amongst the most moving stories. Terrific. You clearly get the idea. And then let's go back to organizational considerations. Any thoughts you have on this? They've really outlined a number fairly well. One thing I'd say is thoughts on it? In organizations, when you're trying to move ahead, you probably want even concrete numbers. Now, this was an example, so it's not that it was a weakness of it, but that to say we have $105 now. At the end of this, we hope to have $250. We have these 5 leaders. One of them, during the course of this, we actually think should not be a leader anymore. One needs to have much greater confidence because they don't speak with confidence. One is doing very fine, and we just need to support more. And so having those names as they're moving forward, specificity on each of the categories. In the manual, the Midwest Academy manual, there's a strategy chart, there's 5 categories, and simple questions to ask. What you really do is you ask the simple questions, and you just start answering them. Who has the power to make the decision? Okay, we want this congressman. What are his interests? We write whatever we know. We'll learn as we go. Who might influence him? His voters, people out of the district, his friends in Congress. For someone who's overwhelmed, you came up with some of the best answers. And what I'm saying that for is, in fact, that's what it takes to start. You just start. Well, the events of the world overwhelm us. The perils that we face can overwhelm us. What these techniques we found, they can simplify it, and everyone can go through the process themselves, and we ask in a group, so what are we for? What are our goals? We want them to give us a Clean Dream Act. We want him to meet with us. We want him to hold a hearing in his district. Okay, what do we know about him? Okay, maybe 3 people should go out and do a little research on him. They do the research, they come back with what they've got, and we learn as we go. And what is empowering is we come up with answers, we try it, and then the kids find the study on childcare that they said didn't exist. That the woman who's the administrator says, yes, I'll hold those forums because she was embarrassed because she didn't tell us the truth on the study. But you don't know what you can get until you start. But if you organize, you can change the world. I would say this was a terrific exercise. Thank you so much. And as we wind down this session,